Thank you for being here. I'm very happy to be here in Lausanne, a city that I love for many reasons that we can discuss afterwards, but I'm not going to explain it right now. I'm coming from Brittany, the other side of France, and I'll be talking in the next 30 minutes about cosmology, a word that maybe doesn't mean anything. So actually, there are two meanings for this word, cosmology. The first one would be hard science. So you have people in astrophysics that are called cosmologists, and they study birth of galaxies, stars, the Big Bang. And there is another meaning for this word that is used in human science, and especially in the field I teach at Sciences Po, and in Mines Paris Tech, École des Mines. It's anthropology, and how in societies and culture we develop a certain vision of the world through religion, through belief systems, through stories, and through many other things I will discuss right now. So, sufficiency is a word that you probably heard a lot today, and I was asking about the first definition everybody would have of this word. I can maybe summarize it in how much is enough, something like that. But most of the time, it's a word that is used about material resources, such as energy, of course. So here you have global primary energy consumption. So how about changing our energy consumption? That's, the first obvious use of this word. It can be also global circularity rate, about how much material we use in our economy. You probably know that there are circular economy and linear economy. And here you have the current trend in the world of the global circularity rate. In the last 6 years, it's been decreasing. So we are in a more and more linear economy. So that's a first way of using this word sufficiency. We heard about water, we heard about food before, etc., so it works. But the question I'm going to ask right now is it only about material resources, or we can use it about something that is immaterial but not less important, space and time? Is it a resource as well? Space. Is it a resource as well? Time? So I'm going to talk about that right now. So that's me. I teach at Sciences Po, at Mines Paris Tech, and I've been also founder of many initiatives, eco-union, companies, cooperative, and I'm author of my first book that has been released last week, actually 10 days ago, and it's here if you want to discover it afterwards. So cosmography is a word that has been used before. It's part of cosmology. It's more about graphic picturing, actually, how we picture the world with images. So how we represent it to understand it. And according to me, it's something at a crossroad between territory, technology, and imagination. The way we build, we create images. And it's very related to everything we've been discussing today, because we are trying to understand, to picture how we can change, how we can evolve, what our future could look like, and what is it to live in this place we call world, So, cosmography is a very old word. It's probably 2,000, 2,500 years old. In the Library of Alexandria, 2,000 years ago, you had cosmographers like Ptolemaios that was building maps of the world, trying to measure the distances between, the North Pole, etc., etc., the climate, the beginning of cosmography. So it's a very old word that has been replaced by geography in the 19th century. But during millenniums, that was the way we were trying to describe and teach and share our vision, common vision of the world. Here you can have what we call in anthropology cosmovisions. Cosmovisions are a way of representing what religions say about what the world is. So here you have the Viking world, for instance, Nordic mythologies with the central tree, the superior world, inferior world. Here you have Hindu cosmology with a lot of actually an infinite number of layers of world, very mathematical representation of the world, So all that is about religion, belief systems, how we represent the world. And actually, the Viking people were, using those representation in their very daily life, the way they build cities, the way they develop agriculture, the way they trade, the way they discover the seas, etc. So it has very practical consequences, the way we picture the world. And today, we believe that we don't have belief systems, that we actually are neutral, that we don't have belief systems that shape, or influence or determine our worldviews. Of course, that is not true. I'm working with companies, with administration, with governments, locally, internationally, and everybody, actually, every organization has its own belief system when it's about picturing the world. So right now, we are dealing with a very important momentum because our worldviews are being totally changed right now. You have digital tools everywhere. We are receiving images in Instagram. We are receiving pictures of Africa, Brazil, Indonesia all the time. So our way of picturing the world is changing. And it leads to, for instance, movements, belief system, for instance, flat Earth. So in France, between 8 to 10% of the population believe in flat Earth. In the US and Canada, it's between 20 and 25 million people believing in the flat Earth. Why? Because maybe school or media or the way science interact with society can be jeopardized in a way. But it's also, according to my cosmographical view, because we are in a momentum. Right now, our vision of the world is changing, and it opens room for beliefs like this one. And of course, you have climate crisis, ecological crisis, the biodiversity crisis, water crisis, resources, etc. So right now, our interaction with space and time is being transformed, and we are in a moment of evolution that I'm going to describe right now. When I started to teach 8 years ago, I discovered a relation that was not intuitive at the beginning between the development of knowledge technology, so something that an anthropologist called cognitive technology, and the way we interact and picture the world. André Leroy-Gourland, who is an anthropologist of technology, tech anthropologist maybe, discovered in the 70s, proved by his work, that actually every tech system, every technology changes the way the user perceives space and time. And you can try with every technology, it works. It works. With fire, the very first, archetypal technology that have been invented or received by humanity, it changes our perception of space, in the dark, and our perception of time. We can be up later at night, And it works with every technology, to the smartphone and to ChatGPT. So there is a relationship, very tight, very direct actually, between our choices in terms of technology and the way we perceive, we view, we develop a certain idea of the world we're living in. This guy, Jack Goody, studied a particular type of technology called cognitive technology. For instance, he studied the last population in Africa in the 70s that never had writing systems in their hands, so they were just, developing an oral society, telling stories, etc., myth. And he observed and analyzed what the arrival of writing systems was producing in their belief system, in the society itself. And he called those moments cognitive revolutions. And actually, throughout myth, all around the world, in all continents, in every culture, you have patterns, patterns of stories about moments when we were living in harmony with the world, paradise, Eden, and something happened, something changed, a cosmological revolution, a cognitive revolution maybe, that, changed the situation, broke something. It's also called Promethean events. And it's something related to technology called breakthrough, something that happened and changed the balance. And it's also related directly in the scriptures with knowledge. The tree of the famous apple, it's the tree of knowledge. So there is something relating, connecting knowledge and our understanding and perception and experience of the world. Jack Goody tells the story of several cognitive revolutions throughout human history. Language, when it was invented, 70 or 50,000 years before our era. It works with the writing systems that totally changed society and human behavior at that time, and the way we develop religion system, belief system, and change our interaction with the land, with the sky, with the nature. It works with the alphabet, 1 millennium before us, printing press, telecoms, internet, and now AI system and autonomy. And all those technological systems are changing the way we see the world. It leads to scientific revolutions most of the time, because we are exchanging more and more information, and scientists all over the world or in different geographical areas can communicate. It leads to a growth of social morphology, that is to say that we expand our social empire over land, in space, and we also accelerate interaction. So there is a change that is time-related. For instance, Hartmut Rosa, that you may know, talk about social acceleration in that understanding. Sorry. It also leads to new belief systems. So what are we living right now? Right now, we are in that type of cosmological momentum. We are changing, we are experiencing a moment of change, evolution. If you know Kubrick, I'm sure some people here know that idea of this is called the monolith, the black stone. Well, if we look briefly at the history of human perception of nature, thank you very much. I'm going to have right now. You can have two big main periods. Thank you. First, the Paleolithic era, when we were nomads. We were experiencing the world, as space to explore. We were hunter-gatherer. We were conquering the world that we were seeing as an horizon, okay? And then this was this huge momentum, evolutionary momentum, the Neolithic Revolution, around 12,000 BC, right after the last ice age. And the climate was changing, and suddenly we decided that we were not continually exploring the world, but we were settling down, and we were digging, inventing agriculture, mining, domesticating animals, and all living entities surrounding us. That's the invention of technical dominion over territory, over land. Suddenly, human beings decided to use technology to control space and time, and to make it provide, help us to survive. Historians write that we passed the Neolithic period when we invented writing. So the beginning of history, the end of prehistory, beginning of history, Neolithic over. But what anthropologists can tell about what happened between the Paleolithic era and the Neolithic era? Well, suddenly we started to appropriate the land. The land is ours. This is mine. And it's connected to the development of cities, urbanization. Then we started to produce agriculture, mining, animal breeding, like I said. And then we started to accumulate and consume objects, because when we were constantly moving, nomad people, we were not carrying a lot of things, obviously. And when we were settling down, suddenly we accumulate more and more objects, rituals, consumption. So I'm sure you're about to understand what I mean. We are in the Neolithic era, more than ever, actually. We are. We are more in the Neolithic era than at the beginning of the Neolithic era. We have a technical domination, we develop a technical power empire over the land, the ground, the sky even, more than ever. So when you look at the past millennium, between the beginning of the Neolithic revolution and now, well, you read the Bible, fill the earth and subdue it, pretty clear. You read the humanism, Renaissance, you know, Francis Bacon, knowledge is power. Nature is a public woman, we shall dominate her, penetrate her secret, and enslave her according to our desire. Why? To promote science and technology. I'm not saying science and technology is the cause of all this problem. I'm saying that the story has been told that way. And maybe that's a problem. More recently, in the 19th century, all the economic theory, let's say, theoretical systems, also consider the land to be an inexhaustible resources of material, and actually our economical system do not take into account limits, limitations, physical and biological limitation. It's Neolithic archetypal mindset. So throughout millennium, actually, we have been more and more in the Neolithic era. But in the 20th century, something happened. We reached the limit, the planetary boundaries we were evocating before. We reach a moment when it's not possible to go further because we have the feeling that will not work. And actually, in the beginning of the 20th century, something huge happened. We reached in 1909 the North Pole. We reached in 1911 the South Pole. That's the end of human globalization, I mean, geographically speaking. That's the end of exploration, the end of Paleolithic era, over. And it led to global consciousness for the first time. And actually, when you look at the 20th century, it's the century of global consciousness. World War I, Society of Nations, World War II, globalization, financial globalization, cultural globalization, economic globalization. 20th century is the moment of global consciousness. Sorry. So we can make this little drawing picture of Paleolithic era moments of exploration, the horizon, then Neolithic, 12,000 years of extraction, very vertical way of understanding the world, and 20th century global consciousness for the first time. We understand that we are living in a planet that is round. And actually, it leads to new understanding. Geology as a science was invented in the 19th century. Biology was developed in the 18th century, and in universities actually developed also in the 19th century. And technoscience and technology at the end of the 19th century was the first time we were questioning, consequences of technological choices in terms of society, economy, philosophy. So the beginning of the 20th century, we understand that we are living here in a geosphere, so the mountains, the sea, the rivers, biosphere, the animal world, the vegetal world, the microbiological world, and in the technosphere. Actually, the land we're living in is full of technology. Now, we are living within technology. Mobility, transportation, homes, cities, etc. And it led us to new understanding. First, loss of biodiversity. You probably talked about during the day. Then climate crisis. So you have the bio, you have the geo, and then Anthropocene and the increasing empire of humanity with technology over the land, over the planet. But in the 80s, humanity started to react to this global consciousness and all the bad news that was coming with it by developing local consciousness. And in the 80s, suddenly the economy, agriculture, food consumption was turning into slow food, local product, local productions, identitary group, also politically speaking. And in the 80s, there was a revival of local consciousness as a contradiction of global consciousness. And right now, politically speaking, we can see that there is a tension. Some people believe it's cool to be global. Some people believe it's cool to be local. And obviously, what I'm saying is that, so that's Brittany, where I'm coming from. Also about language, for instance. And in Brittany, in the 80s, there were people, making bombs because of their languages. So you have this tension, and according to me, the next era, there will be not going back to the Paleolithic mindset, not going further with the Neolithic mindset, believing that it will work at the end if we dominate more and more technologically the space and time. It's, according to me, reconciliation between local and global, a totally new perspective on space and time. This momentum, according to me, is a new way of thinking, systemic thinking, dynamic thinking, and integral reconciliation between global and local. Looks simple, but actually I have also a consulting company, and I'm helping company in France mostly, to implement that into their business models. And it's not that easy, because we are used to not thinking systematically. We are used to not thinking dynamically. The way we represent the land, a region, a city, is not dynamic. We make a picture of it, and we do not understand what new technologies and data can provide us, for instance, dynamic information. And we do not think integrally, because most people, they believe a side between global and local. And that's not what has to be done, according to me. So how do we go towards this cosmological balance? Well, according to me, it's a matter of attention. Because what Jack Goddy was discovering in the premises when I was talking about, writing systems and society that change their worldviews because of new technology, actually, what does it change, the writing system? It changes the attention values, So what you prioritize as someone in terms of attention. I will focus my mind on that instead of that, because I think that is more important than that. So it's a matter of attention. And you see it's related to moral values, to religions, to belief systems. So that's the, the point. Concretely, how do you do it? Well, I'm not going to explain and develop it, but I just give you a glimpse, a shot of my work in a way. There is 3 ways to feel, to experience, to understand, and to reshape a certain worldview through reception, how you collect data. Well, the first way of collecting data is our own body. So re-experiencing the world through sensoriality and body experience. But digital technology can help us also with what are called, for instance, here or in China, senses. So with technological system, we can gather information that matter. So it's about reception. Then you have perception. Perception is what Guido Palazzo was talking before. It's the storytelling. It's what is qualitative. It's culture, it's education, it's literature, it's cinema. How do we picture the world? And this perception is also a matter of communication in companies and administration, within, outside. It's a huge subject, media. And then you have conception, and conception is related to your work probably because it's design. And tech governance. How do we choose to develop certain tech systems instead of others? How do we choose? So that's how we, according to me, reestablish cosmological balance. 3 ways: global knowledge management, storytelling, and sensorial actions. And actually, in companies, I've been working with companies that try to make their employees feel the world more, because we are living in worlds that are cutting ourselves from space and time. We are living in artificial surroundings, not connected to anything anymore. So thinking about how we receive and interact with the world itself could help us redefining what sufficiency means. How much is enough? And tech governance. I'm here in Lausanne in this establishment, and according to me, that's a key point that is not the easiest to address. Tech governance, how do we choose? How do we make and design new decision framework, ethical framework? What are our values, shared values, to decide if yes or no we are developing new technology? 3 messages, and that will be the end. I think I'm quite okay with the time. Everything that I'm saying, I do not invent it actually. I'm just reading very old ancient philosophy in China, in South America, in Roman time. And actually, we have been saying the same thing over millenniums. The world is not actually an object that we can subdue the way we were subduing, or we have, and we still do, subdue women, considering them as objects. And in certain societies and culture, we have to prove, are they object or not? Object, subject? Well, it's exactly the same with the land, with the world we're living in, according to me. And we have to evolve in that way. Secondly, do not consider the world as a tool, something you can grasp and use and, for your own interest and purpose. Consider the world as a milieu, as a bath in which we are living, and we are highly depending on it. And it's totally a different way of understanding it and picturing it. And then consider the world not as a stock of water, stock of oil, stock of energy, stock of food, but as a flow, constant and permanent movement in which we have to find our place, and the right one. Final word, each and every innovation influences our perception of space and time. And when we decide to innovate, or to finance, or to work and spend days and years on a certain innovation, we should, according to me, think about that. The effect it's going to have on the user. Will it reconnect us to the world, or does it whet our appetite to devour the world, And right now we have to decide, because we are at this momentum I'm talking about. According to me, that's also how we reinvent this word sufficiency. Thank you very much. I'm good. I think I have 10 minutes if you have questions. I'm just saying, and then I give you the... this book is the first... can you put it back? This book is the first geoconscience. So you remember that I have a triptych, Geo, Bio, Techno. So it's the first book of a series of 3. And in this book that I released last week, I tried to develop this integral thinking, How can we go from the understanding of the planet, the world itself, and go back to the territory and to the local milieu and understand it integrally? That's an attempt to do it with a lot of images. So every page you have a picture, satellite picture, a map, and then all the ideas I just shared with you are in this book. And then I'm going to do bioconscience, so how we perceive the living, animal, vegetal, microbiological. And then I'm going to have techno-conscience, so this idea of tech governance and what technology do to us. That's it. So if you have questions, I think I have in the schedule 5 to 10 minutes, maybe.
All right, so we do have many questions from the audience. Good job challenging this speaker. It's going to be hard to start here. Okay, so I have one. André Hoffman early today said that putting a financial prize on nature would help sufficiency. In your opinion, are the sufficiency and finance cosmology compatible?
Absolutely. Brilliant question. I don't know who. Actually, I've been also working with accountancy. And right now in Europe, it's changing a lot. You probably know it. But in France, in Paris, there are 2 main theoretical movements about how can we be accountable, in a way, for the world itself, nature. And how much does it cost? And how do we implement those ideas and values into business models and public policies, for instance? Well, there are two views. The first one would be to set a price on nature. This lake, beautiful lake, how much does it cost? 1 billion, 3 billion. That's the first way of understanding it. So you put a price and you put a value and you create a market of what surrounds us. That's one way. And actually, there is a huge fight right now, a war. There is a war in accountancy right now between different philosophical views. The other one is to consider the nature as, and the lake and the forest and the water as what would be in French, une charge. So in English, a cost. Yeah, it's not a cost, but it's the idea that, yes, maybe it's a cost, profit and loss. No, I don't know. But so the idea that actually every organization, society should spend a certain amount of money to maintain the lake, the forest, the water. And it's totally a different perspective on how you put value on what surrounds us in space and time. So right now, there are laws passing, there are discussions, and that's, I don't know which one is the better, I'm not sure which one is the best, but that's happening right now. And it's a very cosmological issue, actually.
Excellent. Now, how do we translate this lecture into something a typical commodity trader would respond to positively?
There are many ways, actually. That's the 3 slides that I passed very quickly. So possible actions in different areas. The first, so if I go back to this, the first would be to think about on every product you sell, every product you design, every product you buy, does it help us to reconnect to space and time? And actually, if you think about it, you know if it helps you to reconnect or if it's disconnecting you to the world. And actually, it's not the product or the technology itself, it's more the use you're making of it. And so questioning the use in every aspect, that's what we call ethical framework, But that's a very practical way of understanding what we do with what. And actually, with the digital technologies right now, I consider that there are very bad use of it and very good use of it. And practically thinking, on every situation, you can ask this question. And then you have the physical experience of the world, and then you have the storytelling. So how do you tell things when you're selling, buying, etc.?
All right. So how can we facilitate our reception ability outside the technology, maybe closer to Mother Nature?
Different ways, very related to the 3 framework I was talking about. So the senses, the way you experience the world with your body. It's also connected to space. So walking through a forest, going to the sea, going to the mountains. I have friends that are teachers, for young people, 5 to 6 in France, and they never set foot on grass, really. At 5, they never set a foot on grass. So actually experiencing the world is the first way. And then you have the reading, the literature, you have the culture, education, and also technological choices. But there is also time. And in order to control your attentional system, what Gregory Bateson, a systemic thinker, anthropologist, but also linguist, was calling the ecology of mind, it's also to preserve your own time. So it's making, periods of time in your days or in your week that are sanctuary. So moments in which, and actually all religions of the world work that way. You have moments that are sanctuarized, that are, just dedicated to just feel and experience the world. Every religion, every belief system say that, but we can experience this every day if we want to do it. It's called meditation. It's called just going, in the countryside for a weekend. Depends, but sanctuarize, make a period of time sacred.
All right. Now, so We have a bunch here. Okay, so much of sustainability images a negative future, which might be probable, but is not automatically predetermined. How do you imagine a positive, regenerative future where we learn to collaborate together, as in the prisoner's dilemma?
Well, according to me, the cooperation, because I think that's what it's about. How do we cooperate? How do we coordinate action in order to create systems that are healthy or that are compatible with this third era or this new way of thinking the world, is highly related to trust and to philanthropy. So actually, right now, so I did not tell you, but I have a big community on LinkedIn because I've been writing stuff every morning on LinkedIn in the last 2 years. And every day I publish something about climate, about the land, about the underground, about the sky, every day. And it happens that some people insult me. It happens. And what I read into these lines is the difference between philanthropy and misanthropy. And most of the time, people that are not happy that I share these views, it's because they consider humanity as being a virus, as being evil, as being, not good, and hoping that humanity will destroy itself soon. So philanthropy is the idea that we should love and cherish and take care of humanity itself, even though, that's something that, for instance, Victor Hugo, the French writer in the 19th century, was expressing a lot with the human gender and the love of human gender despite injustice and misery. It's something that is good, and it's called philanthropy, and I think that's a key. That's really a key to a shared future in which trust and cooperation would prevail.
Excellent. All right, very last question. We've had this question on and off during the whole day, and it's not directly pertaining to cosmography, but people have liked it in the platform. So let's see if you can respond to this. To the people who believe that sufficiency would cause a huge economic crisis, what would you tell to them?
I'm not, most people ask me when I'm doing this type of talks, oh, you are on the optimistic side? I say no. I'm not in the optimistic side. So I think that we are facing and we have a lot of issues we have to deal with in the future. And maybe we are talking about economical crisis, probably partial sectors that will fall down, and etc. But I'm confident. I'm confident that humanity will be able to, and societies here in Switzerland, in France, where I live in Brittany, will be able to face these challenges and to, manage to evolve. And I'm sure that, I think that we should not think economy as one. That's, according to me, an error that we're making when we're talking about, crash of the stock exchange crash, and the economy itself will fall down. Actually, probably sectors, industries. In the eco-union that I built in 2020, I had to face people in metallurgy, in old industries that will probably disappear. And of course, with employment loss, and so we have to think economy properly. That is to say that some sectors will be booming in the future because of this change, and some sector will be, meet their end. So that's how I see it.
All right. Thank you so much, Maxime. A round of applause for him.
Thank you very much, and I'll be